Hello everyone. Let's discuss about cookies and sessions in Java servlets. How to handle them, what are various methods available in cookies and sessions. All that let's see. Okay. First of all, if you can define the definition of a cookie, it is nothing but a small piece of data which is stored on the client side, which servers use when communicating with clients. See, nothing but a cookie is a small piece of data, some small program. Whenever some data is sent, whenever some request is sent from the browser to the server, then in that case, a small program will be written in order to handle our request. And depending upon the request, the server will respond by looking at the cookie. So these are used to identify the clients when sending subsequent requests. So what happens is, as soon as you keep on giving different requests, if the same user, if the same client gives requests repeatedly, or maybe different requests, but by the same user, then in that case, it is done. The user is identified by using this particular cookie. Okay, they can also be used for passing some data from one servlet to the other servlet. So because the request may be different, so the servers will be responding to each request. So the cookie is responsible for moving the data from one server to the other server. Okay, so the next thing is how to create a cookie in Java. Now we are seeing creation of cookies in Java. So how to create those cookies? If you can understand the in Java, if you are particularly speaking about Java language, the cookie class is defined in Java x.servlet.http package. So what happens is, as soon as you wanted to create a cookie, then in that case it is created in Java x.servlet.http package. So to send it to the client, we need to create and add it to the response. How that is done? See, this is the name of the cookie. You'll be using cookie class. This is the name of the cookie, an object, and that is assigned, or an object is created. Let us suppose with some certain parameters. Okay, so what you are doing is you are creating a cookie. You are now adding a new cookie. How do you create a cookie? By creating its own object. So what does this cookie performs now? This cookie performs, it is unique to each user, and if user performs or gives many requests, then in that case, the same user will be identified by using this particular cookie, so that the server need not create n number of users. Okay, after that it should be added to the response, that is response dot add cookie for the same object whichever is created, that is response. Okay, so what are various methods used in cookies? The various methods used here are, whenever we are saying that we are providing various requests from the client to the server, what happens is it will have, each cookie will have certain age. Okay, so that age is determined as expiration date. So the age of the maximum, the expiration date is determined by max age method, and maximum age determines how long should a cookie be valid for that particular user. Okay, so it is something like this. You are using max age is a method which is taking integer type of data, because time is always in integers. This defines how long, how many seconds does a cookie should be valid for. So for example, I'll be setting the max age to 60 by 60. That means we are setting to 1 hour here in this example. That means after 1 hour, what happens? The cookie will be expired. The cookie will be expired after after immediately after 1 hour, even though the client is sending, the same client is sending different other requests, even in that case another cookie will be created for the same client rather than using the same cookie. because for this particular cookie alone, this is the cookie which is related to a particular user. So for this particular cookie alone, you set the maximum age to 60 by 60, that is 1 hour. Is that clear? So this is what happens by using this max age method. We can set the expiration date, we can set the age of the cookie, how long should the cookie be available. Is this clear? So the another thing is setting the cookie domain. This is one more method. This is one more method which is used to set the domain of the cookie. Domain names. Here domain comes under the type of browser you are using by saying .com, www.gmail.com, www.referenceglobe.com, anything, techpoint.com, javatpoint.com. So we will be setting the domain by using this particular method, set domain, which is of type string. Because when we say domain, we are giving www.some.com. Yes or no? This is nothing but called as the domain. This domain is obviously in string. As such, it will take a string data type. So this allows us to specify domain names to which it should be delivered by the client. Because see, if I wanted the data from, let us suppose Java T-point. Let us suppose Java T-point. I wanted the data from Java T-point. Then in that case, our request, that means my request must be sent to the Java T-point domain. Yes or no? That is www.javatpoint.com. So my request from the same user, I am sending it to a particular browser, from a browser to a particular server. So I'll be setting the domain as this set domain. So the cookie will be delivered to each request made by this particular domain and its subdomains. Subdomains you may have something like slash, something like this you may have later. Okay, for its subdomains. Subdomains will be obtained once you enter into that particular domain. You'll be having subdomains later. Okay, so by using that, we can set, by using this particular method, we can set the domain of a cookie. Okay, similarly, we can set the cookie path also. How, what is a cookie path? Cookie path is nothing but a URL, yes or no? So a cookie will be delivered to the given URL and all its subdirectories. How? In this way, by saying slash. It can also be called as a subdomain. So these are various methods in order to access cookies and wherein the cookies can be accessed at different points of time. Okay, similarly, coming to how to retrieve the values in a servlet. This is what we are seeing in terms of Java. Okay, how to retrieve their values in a servlet. So if you say servlet, servlet is on the server side, which is a program which is getting executed on the server side. We have seen earlier, server on the server side, a servlet program will be created. It will have its own API. From there, it will give out the response each time a request is sent. The servlet will be responding yes or no. The server has to respond by using this servlet program. This is the basic part of a servlet. So how you are reading cookies in the servlet? That is what we should say. How to retrieve their values. Retrieving the values is nothing but reading values of cookies in the servlet. So cookies are added to the request by the client. Obviously, the browser checks its parameters and decides if it can deliver it to the current URL or not. That is what, because depending upon the browser you are using, the request by the browser to the server is always checked. So we can get all cookies by using get cookies on the request, because we are trying to retrieve data from the server. So you'll have to use a method called as get cookies. Okay, and this get cookies must be passed to the servlet by using HTTP servlet request. By using HTTP servlet request. So there are two things. One is HTTP servlet request. Similarly, to give out the response, you have HTTP servlet response. So by using the get cookie, we will be able to retrieve the data. Okay, we'll be able to retrieve the data. We'll retrieve the data by using HTTP servlet request. The next thing is we have created a cookie earlier. Now we'll see how to remove a cookie. It's very simple. See, this is how you will have to remove the cookie, like cookie username cookie remove is equal to new cookie. Here you are saying that you are removing the cookie, and see, if you can look at the code here, it is set max age of 0, which means that the maximum age value of a cookie will be set to 0. When you remove the cookie, it is nothing but its age is 0. There is no cookie. Yes or no? So because you are just removing it, so its age will be 0. Now response is added. If you wanted to add cookie, you'll be using response dot add cookie. This is how you will be removing the cookie as well as adding the cookie. The next important thing is here session object. Okay, what is a session object? Session object is nothing but an object which is accessed very often from a servlet. Is said to be a session object, an object which is accessed very often from a servlet. That means the client will be giving the request. Okay, the requests are passed to the server. That is what we know. But these requests are added by these requests are handled by a servlet program. Yes. Now, an object which is always accessed from a servlet is said to be a session object. Why are we saying it as a session object? Because this determines how long that particular session should survive. Okay, so we say it as a session object. Now, HTTP session. Here we learn about HTTP session object. This is an option for storing user-related data across different requests. This is an option which is used to store user-related data across different requests. A session is a server-side storage holding contextual data. Yes, so this using this particular session, you are making it as a session object which is accessed, an object which is accessed very often from a servlet. Okay, so how do you get a session? This is a very important part. HTTP session. See, you are saying that session belongs to HTTP session class. Now you are requesting or getting a session by using get session method, by using request on get session. Okay, suppose if the session doesn't exist, then we can achieve the same by calling request.getSession to true, such that we are able to create a new one. Suppose we are unable to create any new one, then we will say request.getSession of false. If we access the JSP page for the first time, then new session will be created by default. In JSP, this will be done by default. Similarly, we can disable its behavior by making session as false. Okay, this is how we can get a session. Next topic is session attributes. Session attributes, you can set the attributes for a session. So basically the session object provides methods for accessing attributes. Those methods are create, read, modify, and remove. These are various methods in order to access session attributes. So if you wanted to create or replace a session attribute, then we'll be using set attribute. And if you wanted to read an attribute value with a given name by using the key, then we'll be using get attribute. And if you wanted to remove an attribute with a given name, then we'll be using remove attribute. Okay, so to create an attribute, how do you create an attribute? Session attribute. So similarly, first of all, you'll get the session, and for that session, now you should create an attribute. That will be done by using set attribute method, attribute name, and its value. If you wanted to read an attribute, that can be done by using its name. So that is by using session.get attribute, because you wanted to read an attribute, so you will be using get attribute method. If you wanted to create, you will be using set attribute, and if you wanted to read, you will use get attribute of attribute key, because by using the key itself we will be able to get the value. That is what is how to create an attribute and read an attribute, because session attributes are important in a session. Once a session is started for it, the attributes are used to access the data. Okay, for that purpose, you'll have to create an attribute, read data from the attribute, all these things. Okay, so in order to create an attribute, you'll be using set attribute, and to read an attribute, you'll use a get attribute. Similarly, there are other methods which act upon session attributes are remove. Okay, when you say remove attribute is a method here, remove attribute which will act upon a session. So session dot remove attribute of attribute key, because from the key itself we will be able to get the value because it's a key pair, key value pair, yes or no. So from the key itself we'll be getting the value. So you can just give the key, you need not give any value here. By using key, from there you can get the value. So a well-known use case for a user session is to invalidate whole data. So the session object provides a solution for such invalidation by using invalidate method. So what will happen? This method is used to remove the whole session from the web server, so we cannot access attributes from it anymore. We have created an attribute. We try to read the data from the attribute. Similarly, we are removing an attribute. Suppose you don't want to do any of things upon this attribute, then you just invalidate the attribute. So we cannot access attributes from it anymore. That is what is session attribute, and cookies in Java servlets basically. So we have seen various methods, session objects, how to read cookies in the servlet, how to get the data from the cookie, what are the methods, basic methods used in the session, and hope all this is clear. Okay, thank you.